Tonight, the desperate search in the North Atlantic for a missing submersible near the Titanic. The U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard scouring for a sub carrying 5 people. Contact lost for more than 24 hours as the tourist vessel made its way toward the Titanic. 12,000 feet down, rough seas, rain, and fog hampering the search and rescue efforts for those on board, including a billionaire businessman and explorer. Late details just in tonight. Also tonight, the high-stakes summit between China's President Xi Jinping and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. A chance to reset rising tensions that have only gotten worse since the U.S. shot down a spy balloon. Our one-on-one interview with the Secretary of State. The nonstop threat of tornadoes, 1 dead and almost 24 injured as multiple tornadoes tear through Mississippi. The search for survivors. A weekend of mass shootings, some of them deadly. But when it happened twice last month in another country, they took quick and decisive action. Richard Engel is there. The new boom in building, not to buy, but to rent. What's behind it? In our series, Priced Out. On Juneteenth, celebrations across America, and a field of dreams reborn as a testament to the past.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, near the site of one of the 20th century's worst ocean disasters, a new undersea drama is unfolding. Right now, the U.S. Coast Guard leading the urgent search for a group of modern-day adventurers after the submersible carrying them to the Titanic shipwreck lost contact with the surface yesterday, about an hour and 45 minutes into their journey. 5 people are on board the vessel, which is used to carry paying passengers to see the Titanic up close. The search happening about 350 miles off the coast of Newfoundland in waters more than 2 miles deep. Tonight, the company that runs the deep-sea charters, Ocean Gate Expeditions, saying in a statement, our entire focus is on the crew members and their families. Tom Costello has late-breaking developments for us.
U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard ships are at this hour rushing to the North Atlantic as 2 U.S. C-130 planes survey the vast ocean surface for any signs of a private submersible and the 5 people on board. Last seen Sunday morning as it descended to survey the wreck of the Titanic.
During the course of the dive, they lost communications, and we have not had communications with the submersible since then.
The 21-foot submersible named Titan, made of titanium and carbon fiber, is owned by Ocean Gate, an operator of small subs for research, film production, and tourist trips to the Titanic for $250,000. On board, a pilot and 4 passengers, including billionaire adventurer Hamish Harding, who'd taken a submersible to the Mariana Trench and flown in space on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. On his Instagram account Sunday, he signed his name on the logo as he announced he'd be diving to the Titanic. His company later tweeted, 4 a.m. start this morning on the RMS Titanic Mission 5. The sub had a successful launch and Hamish is currently diving. Today, Ocean Gate said our entire focus is on the crew members in the submersible and their families. We are working toward the safe return of the crew members. The CEO told our Seattle King 5 last August he caters to Titanic enthusiasts.
We have a number of people who come with us, sometimes referred to as Titaniacs, people who have just been consumed by the Titanic, and it was just great to take them down.
The Titanic rests at treacherous depths, 12,500 feet below the surface. 1,500 people died when she sank in 1912. The missing sub was only supposed to be gone for 6 to 8 hours with 96 hours of reserve oxygen. Already, Canadian P-8 search planes have dropped sonar buoys on the rough seas, listening for the sub in a deep, vast expanse of ocean. Are they listening for voices? What could they pick up?
We're hoping that they can pick up any unusual sounds, maybe tapping on the hull or voices or those types of things, any signs of the vessel there in the water. And so that's why we've really pressed in with the capabilities that we have.
Now, Tom, as I understand it, submersibles are meant to dive much deeper than, say, a typical Navy sub. If the Coast Guard can locate it under the surface, can they get to it?
They can't. That's the problem. They don't have the deep-sea rescue capabilities that the Navy has. So both the U.S. and the Canadian Navies are rushing those assets to the scene, as well as contacting private companies who have those capabilities. But if they find this crew, it's going to be a very, very challenging rescue operation, and the clock is ticking, Lester.
All right, Tom Costello, thank you. Let's turn now to that critical meeting in China today between President Xi Jinping and Secretary of State Antony Blinken, with relations at a low point. Blinken now touting progress in an interview with Janice Mackey-Frayer.
Good afternoon.
Tonight, a high-stakes visit to Beijing, capped by a handshake. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meeting China's President Xi Jinping for 35 minutes to stop what officials call a downward spiral in relations.
Direct engagement and sustained communication at senior levels is the best way to responsibly manage our differences and ensure that competition does not veer into conflict.
Xi's message to Blinken: I hope that through this visit, Mr. Secretary, you'll make more positive contributions to stabilizing China-U.S. relations. There's no shortage of flashpoints here. Tension over Taiwan, China's role in the fentanyl crisis, unanswered questions about the origins of COVID. Chinese officials not holding back on their grievances either, like U.S. export bans on technology. Tonight, in an interview with NBC News, Blinken said the two-day visit has stabilized ties, at least for now.
Both China and the United States, I think, recognize that we were in an increasingly unstable place in our relationship. I think this is the start of a process to put a little more stability into it.
But China refused Blinken's request to reopen military crisis lines that were cut off by Beijing nearly a year ago. Since then, some close calls, including this Chinese warship sailing within 150 yards of a U.S. destroyer in the Taiwan Strait, and this Chinese fighter jet darting in front of an American surveillance plane, something we saw for ourselves when we were on board another U.S. Navy plane intercepted by a Chinese jet.
We've seen a couple of very dangerous incidents in the last couple of weeks.
China says the encounters are justified to protect its sovereignty. Blinken's first trip here was called off after that Chinese spy balloon, which was shot down after it flew over the U.S. Senior U.S. officials told NBC News it collected intelligence from American military sites.
I think it was more embarrassing than it was intentional.
So with Beijing, the balloon incident is over. It's water under the bridge?
We did what we needed to do to protect our interests. We said what we needed to say and made clear what we needed to make clear in terms of this not happening again. And so as long as it doesn't, that chapter should be closed.
Janice, Secretary Blinken insists the relationship is now stabilized, but was anything concrete accomplished?
Lester, relations are at such a low point that even having the meeting is seen by both sides as a positive. Other high-level visits can now follow, with President Xi potentially meeting President Biden in the U.S. before the end of the year. Lester.
All right, Janice Mackey-Frayer in Beijing, thank you. In Mississippi, at least one person died and almost 24 were injured by an overnight tornado, the latest in a wave of destructive storms. Blaine Alexander reports.
Across the South, it's the unforgiving sound of summertime severe weather striking in the dead of night. Its latest target, Lewin, Mississippi.
Whoa, that was big.
Overnight, a reported tornado tore through this community an hour outside of Jackson, where people were rushed from their mangled homes on stretchers. Daylight reveals the true scope of the devastation. Trees torn to shreds, homes now unrecognizable. All of it leaving more than 24 people injured and claiming at least one life. 67-year-old Georgine Hayes.
She's a good person. Good church person, you know.
Her cousin Lester lives right across the street. He helped pull her from the rubble.
Her house, where the black Jeep at,
Right there.
it was right there. It's gone now. Ain't nothing there.
So it's completely gone.
It's completely gone.
It's the latest in a deadly storm system sweeping across the South and Central Plains, producing at least 17 confirmed tornadoes in just 4 days. Among the towns hit, Perryton, Texas, where the storms destroyed downtown and this mobile home community, killing 3 people. Oscar Hernandez lost his 4 businesses in a matter of minutes. He spoke to NBC's Priscilla Thompson.
It's hard. It's really hard. All the loss, all the people that lost their lives.
Severe weather continues to sweep the South. Today, a confirmed tornado along the Florida Panhandle. And flash flooding in Alabama, an ominous sign of what's to come.
And across the region, hundreds of thousands of people remain without power in some of the very same places that are seeing triple-digit highs, making cleanup like this all the more difficult, with threats of more tornadoes tonight. Lester?
All right, Blaine, thank you. And we have breaking news tonight about the first named storm in the Atlantic this season. Tropical storm Brett has formed in the central Atlantic. It's about 1,300 miles from the Lesser Antilles. It is expected to strengthen to become a Category 1 hurricane by tomorrow night and could impact Puerto Rico by the weekend. We'll stay on top of that one. Across America, the long weekend, a string of mass shootings. Near Chicago, 23 people were shot, one of them fatally during a Juneteenth event yesterday. In Kellogg, Idaho, 4 people were shot and killed. A suspect was arrested. And in San Francisco, 6 people were injured in a shootout involving 2 cars. 2 were hit by stray bullets, and 2 young girls were hit by the cars. With little agreement in Washington over how to stop the violence, tonight Richard Engel reports on how lawmakers in Serbia responded following 2 mass shootings there.
Serbians didn't see it coming. On May 3rd, a 13-year-old boy stormed into his school with his father's 2 guns and a hit list and killed 8 classmates. The next day, a man with a history of violence opened fire in a village, killing 8 more. But then came more than thoughts and prayers. Tens of thousands demanded not just tighter gun controls, but a reorientation of society away from violence.
I think a lot of us have just had enough.
Zarko Svechik's 9-year-old daughter Zora was in the school when the 13-year-old boy went on a killing spree.
What would you say to Americans who've been through this and then see no change?
I would say to them, safeguard your democracy if you still have it, and mobilize.
Within weeks of the shootings here, new laws were introduced and old ones enforced. Now, all sales of new guns are banned for 2 years. Gun owners must submit to in-person psychological and background checks. And owning an illegal gun is punishable by up to 15 years in prison. Many Serbians are turning in their guns voluntarily.
Here's lots of AKs and assault rifles.
There are 70,000 guns in this police warehouse, surrendered under a no-questions-asked amnesty. The Deputy Interior Minister says this is only the start.
What do you think when you see all of this?
I see life saved, he said. Serbia is deeply divided politically, but overhauling gun laws was universally popular. Dobrika Veselinovic is an opposition politician.
Why is it, do you think, you were able to cross political divides?
We are not having these big gun lobbies and the big industry which is behind it.
The father we spoke to, and many others, now want to push further, dialing back violence in the media and in political discourse. Lester?
All right, Richard, thank you. In 60 seconds, tracking who gets an abortion. One state tried to make sure personal data isn't used to follow women who are driving there for the procedure. Plus, the new housing boom in rentals. It's no secret there is surveillance almost everywhere we go these days. Now, one state is taking action to prevent the tracking of women who may be driving to get an abortion. Ann Thompson explains.
If it feels like you are being tracked, it may be because you are. At red lights, going in and out of the office, on your smartphone. But what if you could be tracked seeking a legal abortion simply by your license plate?
I don't think people realize how much of their personal data is collected, that their whereabouts are tracked.
That's why Illinois Secretary of State Alexei Janulius backs what he says is a first-in-the-nation bill to outlaw sharing or selling license plate data for women seeking abortions.
Who has access to license plate trackers?
A number of private and public entities have this personal, sensitive data.
Data he fears could be weaponized as some states try to criminalize helping someone get an abortion, even in a state where it is legal. 3 other states have passed laws aimed at protecting health data from such efforts.
when they travel, whether it's to an abortion clinic or the grocery store. We need to make sure this data is protected.
Illinois Right to Life Executive Director Mary Kate Zander opposes abortion.
Do you think this bill is necessary?
I think it's unnecessary. They're trying to create a narrative around what the pro-life movement may or may not be doing in this.
She says her organization is not trying to criminalize women seeking the procedure.
Is the Right to Life movement tracking license plates of women?
No.
Absolutely not. Has it done that in the past?
No.
Do you see it doing that in the future?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's just not a tactic that we would use.
With a quarter of their patients now from out of state, Illinois Planned Parenthood CEO Jennifer Welch is not convinced.
Patients need to know that when they come for health care, that information won't be shared with anybody, law enforcement, activists, anybody else.
Data collection and privacy, a new frontier in the nation's fight over abortion rights. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Chicago.
Still to come here tonight, the rush to rent, why more people are saying yes to signing a lease, and how it's shaking the foundation of housing in America. Trying to buy a home these days is a real struggle. Between high mortgage rates and low inventory, many are finding themselves priced out. But as CNBC's Diana Olick explains, it's fueling a boom in so-called build-to-rent properties.
Single mom Robin Ashford had planned to buy a home near Columbia, South Carolina last year, but mortgage rates suddenly shot sharply higher.
I found out that I wasn't going to have as much buying power as I would have about 2 or 3 years ago. And my monthly mortgage payments were too much that I could handle.
So instead, Ashford turned to this brand new community built specifically for renters.
I don't have to worry about taxes on the home. I don't have to worry about if something breaks. It's the landlord's responsibility.
They have large open floor plans.
And an increasing share of the landlords are now big builders, like Bruce McNeelage's Nashville-based Kinlock Partners, as more Americans decide to rent not only by necessity, but by choice.
We've had a societal shift to people wanting to rent because they want a maintenance-free lifestyle, or they want the ability to move to a city and just give the keys back to the landlord at the end of the lease.
Builders put up 68,000 new single-family rental homes last year, a 31% increase over the year before, according to John Burns' research.
I think it's at the early stages of being a very, very big business, just like the apartment market is.
Burns counted 708 build-to-rent communities coming soon across the U.S., entire communities of single-family homes built not for sale, but specifically for rent.
The people that want a home but have now been priced out due to rising prices and then rising mortgage rates are saying, well, I want a home, I'm going to rent for a while. So it's created more demand for the rental homes.
And renters are demanding more of the builders. Amenities like pools, fitness centers, dog parks, of course on-site maintenance, and as in this community, bigger backyards. But all that comes at a price. The average rent here is about $2,200 a month, and single-family rents across the nation are rising.
That's something that I do need to think about, because trying to save for a home while paying high rent, it's hard.
For now, she's enjoying the new home, even if it's not her new home. For NBC News, Diana Olick, Blythewood, South Carolina.
When we come back here tonight, the boys of summer back on this historic Field of Dreams, the remarkable story of how fans brought this baseball stadium back from the brink. Across the country today, people mark Juneteenth with parades, festivals, and marches marking the end of slavery in the U.S. And at this beloved baseball stadium, players and fans are reclaiming a part of African-American history on their very own Field of Dreams. Ron Allen explains.
At the Jackals home opener against the Miners in Paterson, New Jersey, a huge comeback. The grand reopening of historic Hinchcliffe Stadium itself.
I get goosebumps when I think about it. We need to keep this kind of venue and places like this, flourishing.
One of the last ballparks still standing from the days of baseball's Negro leagues and segregated sports. A hallowed venue that for the past few decades had been shut down, abandoned, and about to be demolished. At its worst, what do you remember about this place?
At its worst, what I remember are the trees growing in the stands, people living in the press box.
Brian Lopinto helped lead a local effort to save the stadium, now a National Historic Landmark that just underwent a $100 million renovation. The minor league Jackals' new home, once home for the New York Black Yankees and New York Cubans, where legends such as Patterson's own Larry Doby, who broke baseball's color barrier after Jackie Robinson, once played. A lot of legends played here. Do you feel that?
I can feel it. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm playing, in the same place that a lot of, legends played,
This is the real Field of Dreams. This stadium is sacred, and this stadium tells the story of the struggle for social justice, civil rights, and American integration.
Reopening day, a chance for fans to celebrate and enjoy sights many thought they'd never see. What do you think when you're in this place now?
What I think is, wow.
And the Jackals held on to win the opener 10-6. All of those legends who played here, perhaps giving the home team an edge. Ron Allen, NBC News, Patterson, New Jersey.
Quite a piece of history. That's Nightly News for this Monday. Thanks for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night.